Hey, second grade. Today, here is your large story. The genre is also a myth, like yesterday's story. It's called The Golden Flower, a Taino myth from Puerto Rico. Okay, so Taino is a word that I looked up to try to understand this story better. A Taino Native American is an American Indian that was once found in South America, parts of Cuba, the Caribbean, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. So they're very similar to North American Native Americans, but they're actually a South American um, Indian or tribal group. So I don't want to tell you too much because you are going to learn something about this golden flower and what it becomes at the end of the myth. And our essential question is, what do myths help us understand? So we're going to read this myth about the golden flower and what it turns into as it is grown. And keep thinking about theme. What exactly does it mean to understand the theme of a story? A theme means you are able to understand the moral or the lesson of the story, usually found at the end of the story. So take a look at the end of the story and think back or reread if you need to. What is the theme of the story? And then you'll be ready for your exit ticket today. Thanks, friends. Here we go.
Genre, myth. The Golden Flower, a Taino myth from Puerto Rico, by Nina Jaffe. Illustrated by Enrique O. Sanchez. In the beginning of the world, there was no water anywhere on earth. There was only a tall mountain that stood alone on a wide desert plain. There were no green plants. There were no flowers. All the people lived on top of this mountain.
Now remember, friends, this is a myth, and a myth is a made up story. So this isn't a true nonfiction story. This was created and made up by telling a story over time or by the author as well. But it seems like this is a long story that's been passed down from generations of the Taino people and part of them from Puerto Rico.
One day a child went walking on the dry land below the mountain. As he bent down over the ground looking for food, something floated by on the wind. He reached out and caught it in his hand. It was a seed, a small brown seed. He put the seed into his pouch. The next day he went walking and again found something as it floated by on the wind. It was another seed. Day by day he gathered these seeds until his pouch was full. It could not hold any more. And the child said to himself, "I will plant these seeds at the top of our mountain." He planted the seeds and waited. One morning a tiny green leaf appeared. The child watched. From under the ground a forest began to grow high on top of the mountain. All the people came to see. It was a forest of many colored flowers, a magic garden of green leaves and thick branches. The child was happy. In the middle of the forest, at the foot of the tallest tree, there grew a vine that wrapped itself around the tree. And from that vine there grew a flower more beautiful than all the rest, a bright flower with golden petals.
All right, so this is the golden flower that's in the title.
And from that flower something new appeared in the forest. It looked like a little ball. "Look," cried the child, "something is growing out of the flower." As the people gathered around to watch, the ball grew larger and larger until it became a great yellow globe that shone like the sun. Even as they walked on the dry land far below, people could see it shining on top of the mountain. One woman said, "If you put your ear next to the ball, you can hear strange noises coming from inside." The people listened. Strange sounds and murmurs could be heard, but nobody knew what was hidden inside. The people were afraid. After that, they all stayed away. Even the child stayed away.
I think you might have a couple predictions on what you think this golden flower is going to turn out to be.
One day, a man walking on the desert plain saw the golden ball. He said, "If that shining ball were mine, I would have the power of the sun. I could light up the sky or make darkness fall." And he ran toward it, climbing up the rocky mountainside. On the other side of the mountain, another man saw the shining globe, and he also said, "I want that thing for myself. It will give me great powers." He too began to run. Each one climbed quickly. Each one found a footpath that led to the tree. They both ran without stopping until they reached the shining globe at the same time. But what they found was not really a ball. It was the fruit of the golden flower, a calabaza, a pumpkin. The two men began to fight and argue. "It is mine," said one. "No, it is mine," said the other. Whoosh! Waves of water poured out of the pumpkin. The water bubbled and foamed. The waves began to cover the earth, flooding the desert plain, rising higher and higher. For it was the sea that had been hidden inside the pumpkin. Out came the creatures, whales, dolphins, crabs, and sunfish. All the people ran to the top of the mountain to hide in the forest of green leaves. "Will the whole earth be covered?" they cried. Higher and higher the waters kept rising up the sides of the mountain. But when the water reached the edge of the magic forest the little boy had planted, it stopped. The people peeked out from behind the leaves, and what did they see? Small streams running through the trees, a beach of golden sand, and the wide open ocean sparkling all around them. Now the people could drink from the cool streams and splash in the rippling waves. Now they could gather fish from the flowing tides and plant their crops. The child laughed and sang as the sun shone down and breezes blew through the green leaves and rustled the many-colored flowers. Water had come to the earth. And that is how, the Taínos say, between the sun and the sparkling blue sea, their island home, Boricane, came to be.
All right, so here's some information about the author and the illustrator. I'm not going to read, but you're welcome to read it a little bit. What does this story teach us? What does the myth teach us about plants? Well, the story says that long ago there was a golden flower. There was no plants at first, and then the little boy planted the seed, and this kept growing, and some people were afraid of it. They even fought over it. And then it broke open and water poured out, and that is how water came to the earth and oceans, and that is how the island that they were from was created. Okay? So that is what this myth teaches us all about. I know it was a longer story, but it was an interesting story, and I bet some of you predicted that it was going to be a pumpkin because it kind of looked like one towards the middle. Good job. I know this can be pretty quick, but it's okay to just follow along if you don't want to read with the story. just follow along with your finger or have the textbook in front of you and listen. Both are great ways. So take a look at that exit ticket I explained this morning and complete that, and you're good to go. Thanks, friends.